Good evening, all. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Endless Celts. I hope you've got a beer in your hand ready to go, which we'll touch on a wee bit now. Episode 147. I'm joined by Anthony, who knows his stuff, and Francis, who doesn't.
I think you've got to argue against that.
How are we doing, Tony? All right?
I'm doing very well, mate, and what an introduction. Thanks very much to you and Monty. Yeah, that's kicked my Friday off just perfectly.
Franny, how are you, mate? Had a good week?
I'm all good. We busy week at work. I'm not drinking beer because stupidly at the start of the week I agreed to go out and work tomorrow and now regretting it.
Oh, no way.
I know. It's one of the ones that seemed a great idea on Monday, but Friday at 2 o'clock, it's a horrendous idea.
Well, before we get stuck into stuff, let's run through a couple of things. The normal stuff, the Super 6, which the code's still going somewhere. You'll see it along the ticker along the bottom. Super 6, the most recent, let me just bear with me a second to get up. Franny's off the top spot again, thankfully. Sean Ross is up there again. Well done, Sean, mate. Franny's in there in second, and Alistair's in joint second as well. Myself is in fourth, which I can't believe. I always forget it. Luckily, Ross is messaging us every week saying, mind and get your Super 6 on. And James Bowie, or Bowie, hope I'm pronouncing one of them right. I feel like Stephen the Night. He's coming up in fifth. A lot of the other Endless Celts boys are nowhere to be seen. Tony's going to be another one that says he keeps forgetting to do it. But I thought the boys, Monty's saying that Tony's got all the knowledge to Franny, and then you're sitting in second place.
Here we go.
Well, that's the thing. I might be decent in a quiz, but absolutely hopeless in a bookies, Wally.
Like Minears, Tony. Like Minears.
Also, just a wee touch on our sponsor for the show, Beer 52. I've got the whole crate out tonight. You get a wee box like this. I think it was in the comments that if you go to www.beer52.com/Celts and you cover the postage, it's about $5. You get 8 bottles of beer ranging for all different flavours and all that, and I'm on a few of them tonight. You'll see a few of them pop up. Get on that if you can. Aye, get a few. You get all sorts. You get a magazine and it tells you all about different beers, and they send you them out every month for a fee. So have a look at that. You can get the first one for free if you go into that link that's in the comments that I've just mentioned. Give it a bash. Drink along with Endless Celts on a Friday night and listen in.
And if you didn't like it, just get Stephen to transfer your $5 because, by God, does he love it. He loves it.
There's Monty being nice to you now, Franny.
Cheers.
But the football's back. A lot of people all over social media getting it. They don't like the international football. So Celtic are back this weekend. I'm not one of them. Love my country. Love what we've done recently. We're going to talk about the international and the international Celts in particular. Tony, raving about the Scotland again now. We're doing brilliant. How good was that, the last 3 games there in a week?
3 very different games, Wally, and 3 tremendous performances, and got the results we wanted. Going right, but I think back to the first game, it was a special night in the Anthony household. Jude, he was a mascot for the teams coming out, so he met a lot of the ex-players and that do all the media stuff now. It was absolutely a brilliant night, and just one of the nights that he'll never forget, sort of thing, and proved to be a lucky mascot with the result.
He did, aye.
He then, it's the sort of home nation kind of derby sort of thing. Feel the match against Ireland, went behind, pulled it back, got the win, and then we, had to dig in deep. Ukraine were going for their lives. They were wanting to win the group as well, but I think Scotland deserved to win it, and I might be trying to be a bit controversial here. I mean, I get that we all want to go to a World Cup. Of course we do. That's France '98 was the last time we qualified for a World Cup. But I must admit, if somebody had said to me before the game in June that we wouldn't go to Qatar, but we would win the Nations League to give ourselves the best possible chance of going to Germany 24, because I don't know about you, I think Germany, like the 2006 World Cup was a brilliant tournament. The Germans you just know are going to put on a show, and we'll have like a proper football tournament. I think the thought of Scotland being at Euro 24. If I could only have one of the two, I would pick the German Euros every day of the week. I think it's a bigger tournament now. More teams can qualify, and just the way of life over there in terms of how football is, I think it would be absolutely brilliant. So we've given ourselves the best possible chance to qualify now, and we're just fingers crossed that we can qualify this time.
I reckon I'm going to book my flights. I think we're there. Don't want to be preemptive, but I think we're there. Franny, obviously, the Celtic boys, it's grown slightly smaller, but the ex-Celtic boys are like massive influence in that team as well. I'm just going to touch on a couple of them. Taylor got a bit of game time. Obviously, KT went off injured. I thought he did well. What did you think of his performances? And also, just want to touch on Tony Ralston. Do you think he should be getting more game time there? Like he was playing Hickey at right back, and I thought Hickey did really well. But do you think Ralston should be getting more time? And what's your thoughts on they two and their performances?
I suppose it would kind of be being biased and put Ralston in, but Hickey I thought performed really well. He looks a really good talent. I mean, the lad was brave to go away to over to Italy. Was it Bologna? Went to, I'm sure, wasn't it? He went over there, and then he's now
Bologna,
at Brentford.
yeah.
So he's been brave. So it shows the kind of character as. I think he looks better on the ball. He's taller, but I would give Ralston a shout. But as well with Taylor. Taylor was brilliant again, just carrying his domestic form like his Celtic form into the international stage. It was obviously potentially helped by the fact that Robertson missed the 3 games, so it kind of, I think it benefited Scotland in the fact that it forced Stevie Clark into playing a back 4, which suits Tierney, I think, playing as a left back. I mean, we know he can play that sort of left centre back of the 3 pretty well, but I think it benefited him being there. Then obviously it gave, like you say, it gave Taylor an opportunity. But it was a great week or 10 days for Scotland. Like, I'm no, what about Portugal? I mean, give him his due. The guy turned into body prime Cannavaro for 90 minutes, man. There's no getting away from it. But in that game as well, Craig Gordon was brilliant. Jack Hendry was brilliant. I thought Callum McGregor again was brilliant. But like Tony said, the 3 games I had 3 different performances. The Ukraine one, the first one, it was the best Scotland game I've seen in a long time performance-wise. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I as you know, I'm a wee bit of a glory hunter with international football. I'll watch the big events, but I get buzzing when Scotland win, but it doesn't really seem to affect me when we get a negative result. But again, then the Ireland game wasn't the best performance, but we got the result that's kept everything in Scotland's favour. The fact that it was down to us, how we weren't relying on anybody else to get through in the group. But then obviously you went over to Ukraine, needing a point. Ukraine, I think that Yarmolenko chance is massive. If he puts that away, it's the cliche thing. It's a total different game if he puts that away, but it doesn't. Where Craig Gordon has a great game, the defence has a great game, and it got to obviously that bit where it was sticker twisting me. But I can't really remember as saying as we hung on, but maybe that's just more because I'm mostly invested like guys like yourself and Ross. But if you'd offered us up 7 points at the start of it, then I think everybody would have snapped your hands off because the 7 points gave you what you needed.
Yep, definitely, and they were in the best position possible to go and qualify for Germany now. So
that's it.
Fingers crossed the national team go on and do it. Tony, next, our captain. Like, what can you say? There's only 3 players played every minute for Scotland in the 3 games. He seems to play about 874 games a season, and he's still fully running and never stops. I think the last 10 minutes, he was pressing as high as anybody, and he's played every game this season for us. What a player, what an engine. And as Ange says, he never stops, does he?
Yeah, he's a living embodiment of Ange's statement, really, isn't it? Never stop, like you say. He's different class, well, he really is. And it's brilliant to see him that he doesn't just do it for club, he does it for country as well. And I just think we're running out of superlatives to describe him, really. He's been a fantastic, but massive shoes to fill, taking over for Scott Brown. And I know there was a lot of thing at the time over who could it be, and there was, it generated quite a bit of debate on a lot of different forums. For me, it was an open and shut case. Callum McGregor, yes, he's different, to completely different personality, Scott Brown, but and they say, some people would say, he's not a natural leader. That view on leadership's very outdated, and it's long since been debunked that it's, there's more than one way to lead. And Callum McGregor is just, he's, the classic, as they say, leads by example. And if we see some of the sort of footage that's been promoting the new end of season DVD for last year, it starts off, it doesn't actually start with Ange talking about the standards or never stop him. It starts with Calmac in the dressing room. I think you can see it's probably before either, because he's wearing his mask. So there's every chance it's maybe been the derby itself when, the brilliant footage with him and Barisic. But, he's just saying, never drop the standards. It's always us that set them. And, you can see that the players are listening to him and they're taking it all in. He's obviously taking all the best bits of Scott Brown's leadership, and he's implemented his own stamp on it as well. He's an absolutely incredible ambassador for Celtic and Scotland. And hopefully he's with us for many more years to come, lifting plenty of trophies and playing up major tournaments for Scotland.
Hope so. He just never stops. There's a bit of debate in the chat, and it's quite funny because we kind of had the debate in our group chat. Obviously, that Big Stephen, as I don't know, Porteous must have photos of him because he's absolutely madly in love with Porteous. But Danielle's been talking about Jack Hendry and his performances, and do you think it was maybe a bit too early for us to let him go? Did Ange even had a look? There's a lot of people saying that he's not good enough. And what's your thoughts on Big Jack Hendry, Franny? Do you think that it's somebody that we could have kept hold on and he could have done a job for us? I think Daniel's point is that he's better than Welsh, which I think is a fair point. What's your thoughts on that?
It's because I think a lot is, or maybe with the benefit of hindsight, for me, what I can remember, Jack Hendry, I can't remember him putting in any decent performances at Celtic. My lasting memory of Jack Hendry, I think it was actually against Dundee, where he just seemed to take the ball out and just done a big half circle with the ball and that. And it just looked like the wrong guy in the wrong move. It's just one of the moves, I think, for him that didn't work out. It's not to say that he's a bad player. Would he work under Ange? I think he would, even though it was Ange that kind of let him go. But I would like to think he would work under Ange, but I think I'm kind of speaking the benefit of hindsight based on what I've not really seen him playing since he left Celtic. I've only really seen him playing with Scotland, so I'm basing it on that. But I mean, Ange likes a good-looking guy as well, so he would certainly. That's one box ticked.
Aye. So the boys in Scotland, they've done us proud. Our other international Celts, I know Gigi's had time. He's picked up a wee injury, which we'll go on to after this. The Japanese boys, I think they played USA in their first game, and Maeda got a start up front, which I thought was pretty interesting. Up there, I think it's the same sort of formation Ange plays the Japanese national team, and Maeda was the focal point. What do you think about that, Tony? Do you think that's? I thought it was pretty interesting because he's been brilliant for us on the left, and in my opinion, I know he's had his critics recently, but number one, Kyogo didn't play every minute he was away, which is always a good thing. And number two, Maeda playing up front, thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was, and it's something that there was a lot of chat about at the end of summer. Why didn't we sign a third striker, or this, that, and the other? We are Yeti going. I think Ange solved the problem, and with the one transfer, obviously Haksabanovic just came in, who looks very versatile, but I think Maeda is a threat through the middle. We've said that, we've seen it in glimpses last season. You think of when he went through the middle at Fir Park and he scored that night, and he obviously started up front in his debut game. Yep. He played against Hibs through the middle, and he did the business. You think of everybody and their dog was saying that Giakoumakis was created in a lab for Livingston away. Everyone thought I was at the game that day. We were in the bar beforehand, waiting to see the team. No Giakoumakis in the team. Here we go again. And Maeda started through the middle, got the goal, and did the business. So yeah, I think he's the whipping boy for for the scapegoat sort of mentality for within a section of support recently, because when if you only lose one game domestically in a calendar year, you have to pick on somebody. You have to have somebody fill the airspace, and picking on Maeda is as good a subject as anything else, I suppose. But yeah, it's Maeda this week, mate. That'll be somebody else in a couple of weeks' time if we drop a point. But Maeda's just he's the flavour of the month for the boys that just being miserable is the only thing that makes them happy.
I totally agree, mate. I think for me he's a good option up there as well, and I know I'm going to go on to it later on actually with the window, and people saying we should have signed a third striker and the injuries that are coming and stuff like that. So I'll leave that to later on, but he's definitely a third option up there for me, and I think he does his best work on the left, but I think he's a great option up there. Kyogo started the second game. I think they drew 0-0 with Colombia, if I'm not wrong. So no goals for the guys, and Hatate wasn't even in the squad the first game and benched the second game. So I think that's either Japan have got an unbelievable midfield, or the manager doesn't fancy Hatate. Didn't even, and it's another thing. I'm going to go into that next as well about the whole internationals, and it's a year or nay for fans because of injuries and all the rest of it. And I can understand it for that viewpoint where Hatate's went and he's not even got a single minute in the pitch. He's travelled all that way, all the rest of it. But Hatate's been brilliant this year, Franny. And what do you think? Japan midfield must be brilliant.
It must be. It seems the only logical reasoning behind it is Japan's midfield must be brilliant. And for a selfish point of view, Celtic, I suppose it's great because if he's not getting minutes, he's not getting injured. It's not a chance of getting injured. But it's always great to see your players play international football. It shows that you're doing well as a club. It shows they're getting rewarded for the performances. I think we should always be proud of our players going away and playing international football, because then it shows, as I say, it shows as a club that we're doing the right thing. We're doing well. Players are doing the right thing. So it's probably a wee bit disappointing for Hatate, but for a selfish point of view, I think it's great, Willie, because it's not somebody getting injured. But yeah, their midfield must be ridiculous if that guy came and get a couple of minutes a game.
Aye, I know, mate. Tony, come to yourself as well about the international stage. I know, there's loads of different opinions. People hate the international scene, and Celtic fans, maybe in particular, because they didn't follow Scotland, should we say? I think, well, for me, I think everybody knows my opinion on it, and I think it's like that's your highest honour for you as a football player is to play for your country and play in a World Cup. Like for me, if it was to get one cap for Scotland or win a Champions League, I think I'd be wanting to get that cap for Scotland, and that's just my opinion. I know a lot of people say else. I know I totally understand why people say that as well. But I'm just very patriotic and love my country, and I just think it's such an honour. And I think the likes of Calmac and that are the same. I think Calmac got questioned on it before the third game actually, and they'd said about him getting rested, and he was like, "You're having a laugh." He says, "I've played 70 games a season for the past 8 seasons or something. I'll not be stopping there." Tony, what's your view on it? I know it's kind of a tricky one, and it kind of divides because of injuries and whatnot. But your country, and that's my perfect example is Calmac, because he's never ever going to say, "No, I'm not resting. I'm playing every game. I'm playing for my country. I'll play for my club." And that's just my feeling towards it. What's your thoughts on it?
Very, very similar to yourself, mate. I mean, and I know that a lot of the time. Previously, we used to have a caravan up at North Berwick, and because I used to go to all the home games and some away games for Celtic, the international break tended to be when we would go. So we didn't have a telly or whatever, so a lot of times you didn't see the Scotland games, and for a while you almost become a bit numb to failure, or sort of. It's another one we've not qualified for, but it's not until when you watch the footage back. You remember when the Euros was just about to start, and it done that brilliant documentary, the players away at France '98. I think it was so the aptly named Mr. Brown's Boys. It was absolutely brilliant. And you seen, what you wouldn't have give to be able to bottle that feeling that was round about the country when we were at the Euros last season. I just thought it was brilliant, and that's what you want to see again. Obviously we're a bit younger, and I get the whole we don't support Scotland because a certain element of the Tartan Army used to boo Celtic players. Right, okay, I get that, and we know that Celtic players were ridiculously underrepresented for what they achieved at Celtic. We know what the politics of the SFA was, and to a certain extent maybe still is. But look at it the other way. The vast majority of guys that go to Scotland games don't boo Celtic players. Rangers players get booed. There's, if there was more players from other teams, the Aberdeen players would maybe boo the Dundee United players, and vice versa. I've often described going to a game at Hampden. It's like going to a very, very big livy game, where it's like there's more women there, there's more kids, there's more families, and I mean that in a good way. I'm not trying to. It's a good atmosphere, and it's like you learn from sometimes even your own kid. My wee boy's got a real affinity with the national team. He loves watching Scotland, and your own love for it can get better, kind of grow from that. I get the whole, and I get as well that a lot of people have families. I've got a lot of family over in Ireland, and where the whole diaspora of the Celtic population comes from Ireland. But I've only been to Ireland for a stag weekend. That's my thing. Republic of Ireland is the second team I would support. If Scotland don't qualify, you always like to see the Irish do well. Of course you do, but by the same token, I'm Scottish at the end of the day, and by default means I want Scotland to win. But of course, there is absolutely nothing more roasting than being for Scotland and cheering on England as another section of our population. I think if you looked up that in the dictionary next to the word Bylan, you would see something along those lines. But yeah, supporting Scotland, the international break. Okay, it's no every constant like Celtic does, but listen, there's enough space in the football ecosystem for both to exist, and both are flying high at the minute. So let's just be happy.
Yeah, totally agree, mate. Couldn't have put it better. So we'll just move on. We'll move on to next. Ange on tour. He was in Sydney, kind of promoting the Sydney Cup that's coming up. When we're touching on this, actually, we talk about internationals and how that's we don't like it because the chance injury and all the rest of that. Is the thoughts the same on this, Franny? Because this is literally a glorified set of friendlies. And watching Ange's presser, he said that he's been involved in these before when he was in Australia managing, but it's always come in like a pre-season, so it's kind of like a fitness exercise pretty much for all the teams involved. Whereas this isn't. We're midway through the season, and I just said he's want to come and put on a show. We're coming right off the back of a league game on the Saturday and playing the midweek, and he's going to push them hard and all the rest of it. Which, in my mind, you're more susceptible to injury or whatever doing it that way. What's your thoughts on that then? Because, like for me, this is the polar opposite for the international. Whereas I think it's so important, and it's like I said, it's your highest honour. Whereas, in my opinion, in this is like glorified friendlies. What's your thoughts on it?
This is where, and I'll probably include myself, that's where you'll get the hypocrisy in some fans where they'll be all for this, but against international. I mean, you don't really get, because of this Nations League, you don't really get international friendlies anymore. So they're all competitive games. So I think this is where you'll see a lot of hypocrisy in fans, because, as you say, it is glorified friendlies, Wally. It's a business move. Let's not beat around the bush. It would have been silly not to go. Well, it was probably always going to happen, especially after his success and stuff. So, yeah, Ange will want to go there with as strong a team as possible, try and win the cup anyway. That's up for grabs, and just kind of helps build Celtic's business model, and that I feel like over that sort of part of the globe. So, for me, I'm looking forward to it in a sense, because I think it's, you see the interviews, Ange is just held to the highest esteem over there. They absolutely love him over there. So it'll be good if we can go over there, represent ourselves well, put on a good show for the fans that will come and see us, because there's obviously a lot of Scottish folk like that are expats over there and that, and they'll get to see Celtic live for maybe the first time in God knows how many years. So it'll be good for them, and I think Ange seems a proud guy and want to put a show on for them and things. But I think, as I say, I include myself, I think it's got to show the hypocrisy in some fans that are against international football but are okay with Celtic going away and playing a mid-season. I appreciate the World Cup's on and it's kind of coinciding with that, but they'll be okay with taking guys away with there instead of resting them.
Aye, that's good points, mate. Tony, what's your thoughts? Is it similar? Because I mean, I know match fitness and all the rest of it, but that could be good use of training time and all the rest of it instead, and that's obviously going to lower the chance of injuries and whatnot. And with we're going to come on to this as well, but with October coming up, I think we've got like 9 games in October, which is nuts. So like a prolonged rest after that would maybe do the team a world of good. What's your thoughts on it overall? I know, like, obviously the hingy side of it with the money coming in and all the rest of that, it's bang on. We've got to do it, but from this side and what Franny's saying there about kind of the hypocrisy, if you say where it's like hate international games, but we're right up for this. Yeah,
that is a bit strange. I suppose you would think that perhaps more of the sort of kind of elite guys will obviously be off representing their countries at this point. Obviously, sadly, with us not qualifying for Qatar, obviously the likes of Callum, etc., won't be able to play there, but it means they'll be there for us. I mean, I'll be honest. Now that there's a proper team in blue going to be playing at it, rather than what would have become a circus had the other lot been joining us, I'm actually quite looking forward to watching it now. And it'll probably, I know Stephen had been, on our podcast, had been chatting to the boys for the Celts Down Under podcast. There's maybe a wee chance for us to chat with them and kind of get a feel for the Celtic sort of how it is down under at the moment. I think it'll be like you say, Ange just looks so at home down there. He's held in such high regard. It must be a real kind of jolt in the arm for him, being able to kind of sit in front of serious sports people rather than the chimps that he has to do on a daily basis up here. But he'll be looking forward to getting back there as a homecoming hero. As we've kind of built on Ange's homecoming tour. He goes back as a champion at Celtic, and his team's participating in the Champions League. You never know, by then we might have been able to say that we're going to be competing in the latter stages after Christmas. Like you say, they are essentially glorified friendlies, and it will, like you say, would you rather somebody got injured at that or off representing their countries? You're absolutely right, Willie. The argument doesn't hold up. Like you say, whether or not we come home with the trophy, I'm not going to lose much sleep over. But yeah, I think it's an opportunity to grow. Obviously, having a team for the Premier League as well is obviously going to increase the TV viewing figures. I would argue. Obviously, we're the headline act, but Everton are a massive club in their own right as well. We have great support, and that's terrible. I actually can't remember the other 2 teams that are playing in it, Wally. But it's I think it'll be a nice little kind of sideshow for the fact that we don't have a country to support at the World Cup. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it, I must admit.
I think that says it all, mate. I'm looking forward to it, but I can't actually remember the other 2 teams. I think that says it all, doesn't it?
Surely got to be Sydney somebody, because it's a Sydney Cup, so surely there's somebody with Sydney in their name playing.
Put it this way, well, the headline act very rarely cares about who's on the undercard, do they?
Well, that's true. That's true, mate. That's true. Loads of pressers when he was over there. I don't know if you caught them. They were brilliant. You can tell he's a bit more at ease with these guys and not as defensive. And it's funny because you said that, and I watched his presser today back here. And somebody actually asked him the question about how it was being home and what the media were like there compared to here. And I think he basically said, I brought it up, somebody mentioned it in the comments saying that, like, it wasn't a holiday, by the way. This wasn't a holiday going back there. This was like, it was work. And then he says, And he was like about the media, he says, use media. And he says, I'm not going to say anyone. And with a wee cheeky smile on his face, and it's like, aye, yous are all the same. Yous are all sharks. I thought it was really good, but lots of stuff we touched on. I don't know if you've seen it. I thought it was interesting. I wanted to talk about it when they were talking about the Socceroos, the Australian national side, and they were asking him about if he's been keeping an eye on our progress, and touched on 2006, the World Cup, when he was in charge, and the players that he had then, and kind of touched on Moy and stuff like that. But he says he's been keeping an eye on. He'll always be a fan, and it's great. And he was touching on, he still keeps an eye on his old teams and all the rest of it. But they talked about Rogic and like the influence he'll have in the World Cup and how good he is. But then they kind of spoke about him leaving, which and I was always under the influence that he left because he was homesick, or and I know social media you get all sorts, but that's what I was led to believe. And he kind of said along the lines of, listen, this is all he's ever known with Celtic. He's been there so long. He came as a boy. He grew up in the same city, played for the same club for so long, and it's a very demanding club. He says, you lose one game and everybody's on you. He says, look at it last week, pretty much talking about St Mirren game. He says it's a tough place to be, and it's like the standards are like up there, and like the boy's still a young boy. He wants to go and take in another city and take on a new challenge. So he went to West Bromwich. Blows my mind. Honestly, Franny, what's like? I don't know if we've talked about it since he signed for West Brom on the podcast, but it's a mad surreal situation, especially because he had him like, I think Rogic at his peak was like Rodgers right in the middle of these trebles, and then I think he was getting back to that now, if not eclipsing that, because he was playing 90 minutes. Just seems a strange one for him to go. You could understand if he went to a big European club, but he's ended up at West Brom. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
So I was similar to you, Willie, where I thought he was homesick. I mean, it's probably like you say, I've read it online and just ran with it, so to speak. But the West Brom, like, they're not even, if they were in the Premiership, I could maybe make an argument for it, because it's, as we said, players want to get to that, playing the English Premier League at times, but like, I don't even think West Brom are in the top half of the Championship. I think they're languishing near the bottom. And it seems a weird place. Now, like, my work takes me up and down the UK, and West Brom is not a place I would think I would want to go very often. He's bound to have surely had a lot better offers than West Brom. Like, we all know what the guy can do. Like you say, under Rodgers, it was absolutely brilliant. Then under Ange last season, it was absolutely frightening. Some argued that it's possibly the best we've seen of Rogic in the 9 years he was here.
That first half against Hibs, remember?
He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant in that game. But the move has absolutely baffled me. Absolutely, I honestly don't get going for what he is, an internationalist. Yes, sometimes Scottish League can be looked down on, but this was a guy who's done it for the best part in 9 years. I'm not saying he would have went and done like going to a top 6 team in England and things like that, but surely could have found himself somewhere better than West Brom. I honestly don't get that move at all. Well, I don't understand it.
I totally agree, Tony. What's your thoughts on that? Like I said, because at the time we were all thinking that he's want to go back home, or and he's still young. He's what? He's only 30 or so. He's still a young boy. So it just seems a strange move. Do you think he's jumped the gun a bit, and then he's thought the offers might have been flooding in, and it's actually been the polar opposite? Or
yeah, like you're bang on, Willie. But I mean, I think Stephen, and I think I was actually on the night. Stephen kind of briefly mentioned it, and he was sort of as puzzled as the rest of us. I mean, I think, like you say, we all seen the sort of homesick kind of rumours. I actually think maybe even Ange had alluded to that before the final game against Motherwell, when he was sort of paying tribute to him. But then you seen some more kind of sort of darker rumours on the internet that he perhaps wasn't in a very good place, and there was a bit of concern for his well-being. I think that was coming from down under. It was from the Australian press. So for then on in, it's just a case of whatever he decides, let's just make sure he's okay. But yeah, like you say, he could. But Tam Rogic could play anywhere, and I just wish he was still doing it for us, because he absolutely. And you think of all the people that would be but you could maybe understand it if it was maybe, Lenny, or perhaps Ronnie Dyler or someone like that, who he didn't have a great. But you thought, Ange was the international manager as well. But then obviously the rumours then flew out that he was going to be joining up with Lenny over in Cyprus as well. So you know what it's like. The media will print anything or type in if it gets them in the next news cycle. But in terms of when it eventually did happen that he was going to West Brom, I mean, it is a strange one. There's no two ways about it. I think Frank Skinner's the most high-profile West Brom fan, and even he admits that this is the place where football stops. You know what I mean? It's the backwater to end all backwaters, so to speak. And but obviously, good luck to him. Hope he does well. But it's just a strange one. Maybe you never know. In January, if we're needing a bit of creativity, Ange will go, "Come on, son, come back. You're always welcome. We open arms." But we all love him, and we hope it works out. But yeah, in terms of West Brom can count themselves very lucky. That's all I'll say.
We miss him dearly. And this is the God's honest truth. Watched that last game. My dad came in, and I was heading out that night. My dad came round for the game, and see when he went off, I just started howling and greeting. But I was doing that old, no, I can't show him greeting because my dad's there. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, I'm just howling and greeting. And I turned around and my dad was howling and greeting too. We just gave each other a big cuddle, and I was like, it's all right. We miss you, Rogic. But all the best. It's a strange one, though. Strange one. Ange and the pressers. I watched about 3 or 4 of these Sydney pressers, which I think Jed said it in the chat that they were brilliant, and as every interview with Big Ange is. But every presser I've seen him in for the last 3 weeks, he's getting asked about his future and all the rumours about him leaving and all the rest of it. And his reply has been the same every single time. He concentrates on what he does the here and now. All that stuff will take care of itself afterwards, which for me is a bit worrying. But we always know he's never going to be here forever. We always know that. But for the good or the bad, obviously we want it to be for the better, because he's been successful rather than an alternative. But he'll never be here forever. But the thought, you don't think about that. You don't think about the future. I don't know if you use. I never ever think about that sort of stuff. I just think the here and now is amazing. And just here forever. This is like the best life ever. Let's just keep rolling with the times. And it's funny when you start hearing these rumours. We kind of talked about it in the pod, Franny, before, and said that we don't think he'll ever leave. He's obviously very loyal to the club. He loves what he's doing here. He's taking on the fans. He's taking on what the club's about. He loves the city. But then when you start hearing all these rumours and all the time, and then you hear him saying wee things like that, does it start to worry you a bit?
No, Willie, but I think maybe it's more I'm trying to just not think about it too much. I think the way he talks, he seems a very genuine guy, and if he was to leave, I think it would be at the end of a campaign anyway. I don't think he's the type of guy that will jump ship mid-campaign and stuff. But I'd probably howl and greet when he goes, like, I'm like you, Willie. I'm not wanting to think of a time when Ange isn't a manager. It's too good a time now. Yeah, it would be silly to think that he'll never leave. Because if he keeps on doing what he does and then manages to improve us in Europe, the vultures in England will start looking. It's again, it kind of goes back to the players representing the national team. I don't know if an honour is the right word to use, but it shows that Celtic are going in the right places as a club if the big teams down in England are coming looking to take your manager away from you. They're obviously impressed by what he's doing, so Celtic will be in a good place. But I wouldn't say I'm worried, Willie, because I'm a bit like you. I'm living here now. Keep him. I just don't want to think of a time when Postecoglou is not here. It makes me feel okay every time there's something bad. Even like when you talk about the pressers, he joked about how he had to go halfway across the world because he lost one game and stuff. It's just wee things like I'll miss his wee quips and things. So I
I love that about his comments as well. See, when he keeps getting asked about it, that's exactly what he says. He says, when I first came in, I wasn't making it through Christmas. Now I'm getting touted for every club going down south. He says, I know in 6 months it'll change again. He says, that's football. It's just the fact that every time I hear a presser, I want him to say the words, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here for another 5 years. And you don't hear that. But that's not necessarily saying he's going to go anywhere. And that's what he's like about every question that's asked of him. He's very, he doesn't give anything away. But Tony, what's your thoughts? Are you worried about? For me, I don't think anything in the foreseeable anyway is never ever going to happen. Obviously, down the line, that might be the case. But I don't know. It's just like you kind of feel like you want some sort of comfort in him saying no, but he doesn't say no, but he doesn't say aye either. So
that's the thing. See, and even if he did and says, I'm going nowhere for the next 5 years, I can guarantee you the Daily Record the next day would print Ange refuses to commit to Celtic for the rest of his career. It would be something like that, or in less than half a decade, Ange won't be the manager. Some try to create panic like that. I'm kind of like yourself, Willie. I don't think there's anything down south that would particularly interest them at the minute. I know obviously Graham Potter's moved to Chelsea, but Brighton and Hove Albion they're a well-run club. Don't get me wrong, and they're sustainable and whatnot, but they're small fry. They're let's be honest, they're a tadpole in the Pacific Ocean of the Premier League, but they're no great shakes. Leicester are very much on a downward spiral, which you could foresee that happening the minute. Obviously, the owners made a lot of their fortune in travel, which has obviously took a hit in the pandemic, and obviously the tragedy that happened to the current owners. I think it was their father who perished in the helicopter. So I can understand why perhaps their energy for it is perhaps dwindling a little bit. And the minute you stand still down south, you start going backwards. So I don't see it being the attractive proposition that it maybe even was a few years ago when Brendan left. In terms of the rest, the toxic mixture of arrogance and ignorance would mean that all the sort of top dogs, in inverted commas, wouldn't possibly consider somebody up north going down. And like you said, I don't think there's anything really. I don't think there's any club down there that can offer him what we can at the present moment, because apart from maybe his own ego, one of Brendan's biggest one of his justifications for leaving was that he wasn't backed by the board, which is absolutely open to debate. Ange can't debate that. He has been backed very much, and he appreciates that. Don't get me wrong; he's never said that he hasn't been. But for all the Celtic board's faults, and there's not enough hours in the day to list them, he absolutely has been backed by Michael Nicholson and the rest of the hierarchy. He's spent more in terms of the outcome. Of course, he's made a lot of that back in net income, as the latest financial figures showed. But he has spent a lot of money at Celtic getting to build this team together, and a lot of other things as well. So, and he's getting the opportunity to play now on the biggest stage. And I think if we were to win the league again this year, the coefficient still means you would go straight back into the Champions League again. I think provided we've got a seat at that top table, I don't think we've really anything to worry about, to be honest. And also, we're competing at that top table this year. We've got a point on the board. We've got 2 massive home games coming up, and Leipzig away still. So it's all to play for. And I think, I can't see him going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, it's great points, mate. I totally agree with you. And I think when he's touching on his in his pressers, he talks a lot about the Champions League and how he wants to see the progression. We're there now. He wants to compete, and then every season, I think he talks about the Ajax model, and somebody misquoted him as usual for the media, saying that he says, no, I don't like Celtic. I've got their own model. We don't need to copy Ajax. What I meant by that was we've established ourselves. We start building. We're competing. We make ourselves a force in Europe, and then we continue for there. But it's an interesting. See, when you're talking there, Tony, I want to come back to you because you were talking about how the top teams and this like ignorance thing. And I agree with you. I totally agree with you. But do you think that it's ignorance on their part for our league? Because I think a massive amount of the Celtic support when Ange's name was linked with us because we were linked with Eddie Howe for so long and he was a big name, when Ange's name was linked with us, I think we were a bit ignorant about the fact that he was coming in as well, because, and it's this exact same token, that league and the standard is nowhere near what we are, all the rest of it, a bit of ignorance. Do you think that's the same for the EPL for us?
I think it's perhaps the same thing. I think it's just sort of on steroids where it comes from down south, because we could probably have some justification for our sort of ignorance for the fact is that Ange was literally managing on the other side of the world. He was in Japan, he came for Australia. We'd literally, he'd never even managed on the continent before, let alone even in Great Britain. But anything past Berwick upon Tweed is seen as a backwater by the English press, and you even see them talking this week. Scotland, regardless of whatever group or that they were in these Nations League qualifiers, a group which we are now obviously above England in the rankings. There was comments saying it's like Liverpool celebrating winning the Johnston's Paint Trophy and stuff like that. They don't realise that they're so detracted from reality that they think football began in 1992, and they don't realise that you could give anybody £1 billion to polish a turd, and you can make it look better. You give Scott, I know we're going to touch on this in a bit. You give anything £1 billion, you can make it look better and pretend it's better than it actually is. There's a hell of a lot of football down south that would put you to sleep, and it's definitely the best marketed league in the world. Don't get me wrong, but it's also the most overrated league in the world.
I think you're bang on, mate. I think that shows in a number of clubs there that were nothing, and then you threw money at them, and now they're the biggest clubs in the world. So, no, totally agree with you, mate. But talking about ignorance and for our league, let's move on to the Sky TV deal. Granny, Sky TV deal, 4-year extension for 60 games per season, 150 million, which equates to £30 million a season for each club, I believe. What's your thoughts on that? It's literally just, our last deal was, I think, 25 for 42 games or 48 games or something like that. So they've literally an extra 5 million a month for more games. But what's your thoughts on it?
It's a hard one. Like, I think it's a poor deal to look at, because it's essentially per game. It's less per game than the previous deal. So if you say it's obviously 30 million a season over the 5 years, it sounds like a better deal. But when you break it down, it's per game. It's a worse deal. But where you've kind of got to flip it, who is competing with Sky? It's one of them. It's who's competing with BT, who I thought were great for the Scottish game. That their coverage was brilliant. They clearly can't afford to even compete with that kind of money for the Scottish game, which is unfortunate, because like Sky's coverage is absolutely horrendous. They'll probably even take up the full allocation of the games like they've done the last couple of seasons. So as much as it's a bad deal, it's what other option did we have? Is for me, it's as kind of as blunt as that in a way. Like I've said previously, I don't know if there's some way that you could maybe try and do like a streaming service like an Amazon for the Scottish games. You pay a monthly subscription, say between £7 and £10 a month, but that gives you any game you want to watch. But I appreciate, without knowing all the technicalities and stuff going into it, you would then have to provide us. You would have to then get the sort of a streaming sort of a system set up, whereas Sky, BT, and all that have all that in place. They have the technology. If we were want the Scottish FA to then do that solely, run it, then it's all the money's in going into your game. It's probably a lot of money you need to spend before you start seeing any income back from it. So I would like us to maybe, I think not only for me anyway, the only way looking at getting a better deal is going down the streaming route, but it's to then get 30 million, even at it's a lot of folk you would need to buy that streaming sort of a subscription. So I think that would be a bold move, but a very, very risky move. It's borderline Satanta, that option for me.
Aye. It's interesting you say that, because I mean I shared in our group chat and it kind of caused a bit of debate, and it was the Aberdeen chairman's statement on the whole thing. And he's saying pretty much what you're saying, Franny, that there's no competition. it's as good as we can expect because we're competing with the EPL. So there's that point of view, and this whole Sweden's getting double what we're getting. I kind of he touched on that as well, which the Rangers managing director said he was very underwhelmed about the deal, and that's why I think Rangers and Livy kind of delayed their decision on the vote, because I know Martindale did all sorts about how it's not enough and all the rest of it as well. He was very underwhelmed because the Swedish clubs earn double, but then when we looked further into it, the Swedish clubs were showing double of the games, 120 games for that price, and we're not showing that much, and it's because we're competing with the English Premier League, and we're not going to show that many games. So, Tony, it's interesting, like Franny's saying that, so it looks like he's here on that side, like the Aberdeen chairman's side. Are you a bit underwhelmed? Are you that way inclined as well, where you're saying, well, what more are we meant to do? There's nobody else competing. We're not getting any other offers. We're not showing as many games, and the whole Sweden debate as well, I thought was really, really interesting because they're showing twice as many games. And I know Stephen, when we had the debate and Stephen was like, "Well, show twice as many games then." And I'm like, but that's fair enough. But we've not got anybody offering us the money for twice as many games. So it's easy enough to say Sweden are getting double when they're a lesser league than us. Aye, but they're getting the offer. We're not getting that sort of offer. This is the best offer that's on the plate. So, what's your thoughts on it, though, Tony?
First of all, my first sort of emotion is absolute amusement that the Rangers managing director offering financial advice. It kind of reminded me of the Kevin Bridges stand-up routine where the tramp on the bus can't afford the bus fare and he's giving Mark Zuckerberg advice out on Facebook. So yeah, I mean, in terms of, I think although there's, it says it's up to 60 games for the next little while, I don't know if I might be wrong in saying there's a commitment to maybe show more than, and they're not saying absolutely that they'll show more than 42, but I think in kind of real terms, there might be more games on the actual broadcast over the term of the deal. I get the whole, like you say, Willie, as some of the guys use, Sweden's showing more games and whatever. Listen, Sweden might be making more money off their TV deal. How far do AIK Stockholm get in Europe every year? How many games do you watch that feature AIK Stockholm? Nothing, because it's and of course the standard 11 and the cost of living is a lot higher in Sweden as well in the Nordic states. Okay, they have higher incomes as well, but it's just as silly to compare the deal with Sweden as it is to compare a deal with England for me, for different reasons. Yeah, but it's still not like for like. Listen, we all want more and we all want a better product in terms of, you're bang on, Franny. I think BT Sport were, in terms of presenting it and promoting Scottish football, is a lot better than Sky. Any channel that employs Chris Boyd automatically can't be classed as anything regarding competent. It's Chris Boyd couldn't win Chris Boyd of the month. He's an absolute clown. But at the end of the day, BT didn't offer anything. Amazon, which I think would be a good thing, the whole streaming thing, didn't offer anything. ESPN didn't offer anything. Eurosports didn't offer anything. Sky are the only ones on the table with a deal at the moment. And I know that there's this other big argument that a lot of them are putting up, saying we should have held our ground and waited till the end and says that offer's insulting, take it off the table. And I think those people have got short memories, because we did that exactly 20 years ago when we told them after their first TV deal in 1998, there was rumours that we were going to be getting a better TV deal for Sky going into the second phase in 2002. We did that, stuck two fingers up at them and said, you're insulting us. So Sky very happily took that deal off the table and went and insulted the lower leagues in England, who were very happy to be insulted with the kind of money that were being offered. And look where that ended up, was we ended up with basically a peasant's deal for the BBC. We then struck up a deal with Setanta, who defaulted on their payments. So, as much as Sky, I agree, it's a poor presentation, and perhaps the monies could be greater elsewhere. In real terms, where the action happens, there was only one bidder in town. So if you're the top guy, if you're Neil Doncaster, or if you're the person that's got to be responsible for all these clubs getting some sort of income for a TV deal, Do you wait for something that will probably never come, or do you take a deal that's pretty decent, whether we like it or not? It's a pretty decent deal. It's not an incredible deal, but it's not a derisory deal either. So you take it with that bit of security. Post-pandemic, that's what a lot of these clubs were facing, an existential crisis. Now they've got a wee bit of security, that they've got that TV money coming in, and I'm sure that there is they're allowed to. They're also allowed to. There's a deal in it where some of the clubs are allowed to. Is it up to 5 games a season? Can also stream it, promote it on their own channels. So there's that little bit as well. That Sky are giving a bit and taking a bit as well. Hopefully, and you never know. That they've renegotiated this deal halfway through this deal with more money, granted for maybe lesser games. But by the same token, what's to say that they won't do that again in 2.5 years? And if Celtic and Rangers continue to get into the Champions League, if the teams that finish 3rd and 4th can maybe break that wall and get into the Europa League group stages or get into the Conference League, if Scotland start qualifying for tournaments more regularly, then there's no reason to suggest why that TV deal wouldn't be renegotiated again. I'm not Rupert Murdoch's mascot by any chance. I can't stand Sky Sports coverage. I think it's awful. But maybe maybe this deal will maybe make them sit up and say, right, well, we need to improve as well.
What you're saying is that's come in the statement, mate. They're saying that it could potentially lead in a couple of years to 38 million a season per club for 80 games, and then continuously grow. So it's business. It's what you've got to do, and I think you've absolutely nailed it. Bang on there, Tony. Everything you've said, I totally agree, and I think a lot of the chat are saying the same. Brown Waters totally agree when you hear and saying that there's a global crash coming. Take fucking money now. It's absolutely bang on. Right, quickly, I need to go through because myself and Franny are appearing on the Bhoys bus next.
We're going to miss it.
So we're going to go into Motherwell quickly. Franny, Motherwell, I don't think are going to be. I've watched them under Stevie Hamill now, and I think they're a bit more attacking side. I don't think they're going to do St Mirren sitting us. I think it might be a bit of an easier outfit to break down. What's your thoughts? You think, Will?
I think so. Well, then it's Celtic Park as well. So
aye.
It's home a wee bit. Like, not that I was ever worried we're going to go on maybe a run, but obviously we had that. They dropped points before the international break. You could it's the type of fixtures you want when you come back for the international break. A home game against a team that's not really, they're playing okay, but are not in a great shape. So, for me, I think it'll be a comfortable front. I think the team will be up for it to show that St Mirren was a blip. Let's not get away with it. It was a blip. Like Anthony touched on, it was our first drop points in the league in a calendar year in 39 games. So. It was our first defeat, I should say. So it was a blip. So I think the team will be right up for it, and I can see maybe a 3 or 4-0, Wally.
Aye, I agree, mate. Tony, we're on a 3-match. We've not won in 3 matches streak. I think Motherwell are on a 2-match, so they're the favourites, surely.
Well, going by the logic of the mainstream media, they will be, mate. And of course, everyone's always said that the result against St Mirren is absolute proof. This is a lot of Celtic fans as well, mate. That is absolute proof that the boys on the bench and that perhaps the second string aren't good enough. I'll maybe focus on the body of work that came for the 12 months before that is absolute proof that they are. Everyone can have a bad day at the office. Like Franny, I can't wait to get back, actually. The Real Madrid game feels like a lifetime ago since I was at Celtic Park. Can't wait to get back tomorrow. And I think go out, do the business, and just remind everyone who the main top dogs are. I'll go for a hassle-free 3-0.
It's funny how you can go a year unbeaten and then get beat once and that's it. The whole
game's a bogey.
Fucking terrible, eh? Franny, a quick score prediction for yourself?
I'll go 4. Stick my neck on and go.
I reckon it's going to be. I reckon we're going to do the business again. And I mean, we talked about it on a national stage, and social media will have you thinking that it's the worst injury plague we've had since God knows when. But the manager was in a presser today, and Starfelt is out for the foreseeable few weeks, which he's been out most of the season anyway. CCV is not going to make it, but he should be good to go midweek next week. And Giacomakis is the other one that's not going to make it, but he should again be free for midweek next week. So all this international stage injuries, it's fucking horrendous nonsense. I think that's shown there. And I thought it was the Haksabanovic one was going about that he's it's a bad one. I don't know if you've seen the presser. He said that he got out. The first question he was asked was who's out, and he mentioned day 3. He said and Giacomakis will not make it, and then answered a couple more questions. And somebody said Haksabanovic, and the gaffer said, "Well, I didn't mention him earlier, did I? So he'll be fit." I thought that was absolutely top notch. Just quickly as well, he mentioned about Abelgard, and we should be seeing a bit more of him over the coming weeks. We've got 9 games in October, so he says that we're going to see a few players and that. It'll be interesting as well to see him, and hopefully it means Calmac can push it at number 8 because I think he's excellent in there. Let's leave it there because we've got our ticket stamped for the bus. We're going to be late.
Well, sorry I can't make it tonight, boys, but I'm sure you'll do great. And say hi to Phil for me as well. Love that guy.
Will do.
See, just before we go, good luck to Ross on Sunday. He's running that marathon.
Aye.
Sorry,
Ross is running a marathon. I think he's aiming to do it in about 2 hours, 12 minutes or something, but we'll see how he gets on. I'm sure he'll smash it. He's put a lot of effort into it. All the boys are behind you, mate. Go on and smash it. We know you will. All the best.
Just to get back on.
I know. Just to wrap it, because Monty's dying to get you up back on again. There's Phil away into makeup, so we better get going. Wrap up. Super 6 again, usual. Viewer takeover. Jed's coming on. Alistair's coming at some point. Mind and get a few private mails in. Slide into DMs. If you want to join in. Beer 52. I've been drinking. I've had about 3 or 4 a night. It's lovely. There's a coffee flavoured one. I didn't even like coffee. I've enjoyed it. Get on that. It's on the bottom. Click the links. All the rest of it. Everybody in the chat. Our wee community, as Stephen keeps saying. Everybody say good luck, Ross. Brilliant. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. The boys will be back on Monday. What's this saying? Keep safe. Stay well.
Something like
Hail, trips.